Hi everyone and welcome back to the Rookie CEO podcast. I'm Grace Watkins. I'm the CEO of Click Management, and Rookie CEO is my weekly learning out loud process of the highs and lows of building a business for the first time in my mid-20s. This week, I want to talk about taking time off. It's Wednesday when I'm recording this episode, and I'm taking Thursday and Friday off this week. Not for any particular reason, but just because I was feeling like I really needed it. And the fact that I have made the plan to take that time off and I'm going to do it kind of was a cause for reflection for me on how hard that has been for me in the past and the learnings that have come along with this entrepreneurial journey around taking time off and the feelings and thoughts that are associated with that for me. You know, it's funny because I think when you take time off, it's really easy to associate that with relaxation and rejuvenation and enjoying this period of time where you really don't have to do anything. And it's funny because in the past, actually, the idea of taking time off, while I wish that for other people, has come along with some feelings of stress and pressure for me. And I think it's associated with my role and the work that I do and the fact that we have our own business. But for me, there was always this feeling of like pressure or guilt, like a deep sense of guilt around taking time off. And I think that's associated with the fact that I generally really love what I do. I love coming to work every day. Not everyone loves what they do for work, and not everyone loves coming to work every day. So I felt this deep sense of needing to make the most of what I'm doing, and therefore I shouldn't want to take time off if I really truly love what I do. Which now I know simply isn't true, and I of course wouldn't ever say that to anyone else. It's advice that you wouldn't give yourself, but that you of course would give to other people, is that regardless of whether or not you love something, it's totally healthy and totally fine to take time away from it as well. I think it was also built around these feelings of having a team and feeling this deep sense of responsibility to the rest of the team. The fact that I'm a leader and the fact that this is my own business means that I didn't deserve to take any time off, and I have to be there for everyone else around me 24/7, the sense of responsibility that I have to be there all the time, which simply isn't true. And I think over the last year, that's something that I've really learned, is that the team doesn't expect me to be here 24/7. The team doesn't expect me not to take a holiday at all for 4 years. I think coming to that realization and coming to this sense of almost self-compassion where you're allowed to take time off. I'm allowed to not want Click to be my 24/7 every day of the year has been an incredibly freeing thing to come through. And I think it hasn't come just naturally. There's been some massive hurdles that I've needed to go through to actually have those realizations and, really have it hit over the back of my head that that's an okay thing. But we've got there in the end. And so I feel like now's kind of a nice time to reflect on that before I take the next couple of days off. The thing that I think really triggered this for me was over a year ago, I went through a pretty bad burnout period. We were going through so much change and shifting at Click. We moved offices. We employed an additional 10 people in a really short period of time. Emma, my business partner, was on maternity leave, so usual support structure that I would have in place wasn't there. And we were going through some challenges and shifts with the business, as any growing business does. And it just felt like I had to think about a million things at once. We had a lot of new staff that I felt like I had to be 100% on top of what all of them were doing all the time as well. And it just got to a point where it was completely unmanageable. And I felt almost a resentment to the work that I was doing, which was incredibly stressful because I'd never felt anything but passion and true love for the work that I was doing and this sense of excitement to get up every day. And so waking up in the morning and feeling like, oh, I really don't want to go to work today, or I'm really not looking forward to this, or I'm feeling like any small challenge is too much to handle, was a stressful feeling in and of itself. And that burnout has come and gone, thank goodness. But it did take me quite a long time to get out of it. It took months to get out of a bad burnout. And I think one of the things that I promised to myself was that I wouldn't let it get to that point again. And the one good thing that I took from going through that burnout was that I'd identified the signs that would come up early in the piece so as to allow me to avoid getting to that bad point once again. At the start of Click, when we first started this business and it was just a few of us working on it, nothing would happen if we weren't working on it. Like, I remember this period at the start for the first year, 2 years, where it would be so easy to just devote all my thinking time to Click. I had no desire to go out on the weekends. And I think this is something people don't talk about that much, but you know, there's this real hustle culture and glamorization of the hard work that goes into starting a business. And people are like, oh, this person's putting in X hours a week, or, you know, pulling late nights every night, that sort of thing. And like, what a sacrifice it is. And while, you know, there's part of that is the case, there's also part of it genuinely, like when you're starting a new business and you're passionate about it, you don't want to do anything else. You have boundless energy. I had no desire to go out on the weekend. I would rather work than go out for dinner. And of course I like loved my friends and that sort of thing, but it just felt like a no-brainer at the time that was where my time needed to go. And I thought that would last forever. And it doesn't. And, you know, it got to a point, you know, at that time a year ago where I needed time off. I couldn't push myself to that point and be trying to do a million people's jobs at the same time. And it all just sort of came crumbling. And I think there was this deep fear around not being taken seriously if I wanted to take time off, or not being committed enough as an entrepreneur if I needed to take time off. There's also this feeling that I have where I actually love the feeling of being productive. It's incredibly satisfying and like quite addictive for me to feel as though I'm getting through things and being productive and getting to the end of the day and being like, damn, I was busy today. I had a productive day. And I think there's a psychology that humans have where what we associate that productivity with is that feeling of like ticking things off the list, or, you know, striking things through and feeling as though you're really doing things. And so to get to a point in my job where my job was less about actually doing things and more about leading people was also quite stressful, because I felt as though I wasn't being as productive, even though really it was just my definition of what that productivity meant. The feeling of taking time off, the feeling of being confronted with nothingness time, or time where I'm not focused on Click and my identity isn't connected to that, has been and can be quite a stressful feeling, because so much of my identity as well is now connected to Click. And so when I'm taking time off or I'm doing other things, there's probably a bit of an insecurity or a nervousness that comes up where I'm like, what am I doing if I'm not working on Click? Like, where does that feeling of productivity come from? Where does that feeling of purpose come from? I think it's a combination of all of those factors that has meant that in the past, taking time off has been quite difficult. And then when it gets to a point where I have taken time off, I can find that period of nothingness, that period of open space where you don't have a to-do list or a Google Calendar that you're working through each day, can breed a lot of thinking time. And I think thinking time is something that in the past I've tried to minimize. And maybe it's because I have a tendency to be an anxious person, and having, you know, a full day of diary and a to-do list makes me feel productive. That open time where you've got nothing going on can be stressful. And I think there's also a sense of competitiveness that comes up for me as well. If I'm taking time off or on holiday or whatever, and I go on social media and I see other people posting about their career wins or things that they're working on or deals they've signed, I suddenly feel as though, oh gosh, like it's today. It's this day that I've chosen to take off, which is the day that's going to make the difference and where I'm going to fall behind, which of course simply isn't true and you know, isn't advice I would give to anyone else or tell anyone else. But it's this feeling as though the taking of time off is where I'm going to fall behind, even though that doesn't totally make sense. And I'm sure there's a feeling for me where I like the feeling of being busy for busy's sake. And that's almost to that end why it's so much more important to take time off for me as well. So I think some of the things that I've gotten better at though is absolutely identifying when I need that and trying to tackle it head on. It's been a busy last couple months for us at Click. I've had a few things going on in my personal life, which have been, I feel like I need a little mental break for. I've identified that there's the start of some of those feelings where you're feeling as though small tasks are a lot to handle, you're resenting some parts of work, and therefore I know it's the time where I'm like, I'm going to give myself a long weekend and take a Thursday, Friday off and not have too much planned. And I think one of the things that's helped me be able to do that more is getting realistic about what my time off looks like and what it doesn't look like. For me, and I'm sure for many entrepreneurs, the idea of being completely offline for a period of time, whether that be a day or 2 days or a week, is frankly just unrealistic. It's not totally going to happen. And I think there was a stress associated with the fact that I felt as though if I was taking time off, I needed to be 100% off. And I think being real with myself that that's just probably not going to happen has made me feel more comfortable about the time that I do take off. So for me, telling myself I'm not going to pick up my phone or check my email at all is unrealistic, and that's okay. But what I will try to do is make sure that when I'm taking time off, I'm minimizing the time that I'm spending on email. I'm giving myself half an hour at the start of the day and maybe half an hour at the end of the day to answer any questions from the team or check to make sure nothing urgent is happening. But I'm minimizing any non-essential meetings, and any work that I do work on, I try to make sure is like offline work. So if it's like reading a book or if it's jotting down ideas, which oftentimes come most when I'm taking time off, that's okay. And I don't have to completely tell myself I can't think about Click for the period of time that I'm taking time off, but that I should enjoy it and try and make sure that I'm being a well-rounded person and developing other parts of myself that don't have to do with Click and don't have to do with my work identity, and that actually everything is going to be fine. The team will still be here on Monday. The place won't burn down. Nothing is that urgent. And I think getting to that mental space has helped me a huge amount and is something, that I would really encourage any other entrepreneurs or people that can have a tendency to get a little bit work addicted to work on. That wraps us up for this week's episode of Rookie CEO. Please leave a review on the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other people find it. And follow Rookie CEO on Instagram. We've been doing some Q&As there and some day in the life stuff there. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.